1.3 tons of cocaine was heading to Brussels airport in 2021 from Brazil. The previous year, more than 3 tons arrived in the port of Rotterdam via the company Rotterdam for a group revolving around the most wanted man in Belgium, Flor Bressers. All this is linked to a huge Belgian file that goes as far as establishing links with the cartel Tito and Dino from the Balkans, as well as with various notorious people from the Antwerp underworld. The key character in this story is a young man who grew up in the Limburg municipality of Lommel. He is a former student in criminology at the VUB University in Brussels, who gradually changed his professional career. It is Flor, known in the field for his intelligence, but also for his explosive character. The latter is described as a man who always wants his orders to be followed.
Flor had bribed a policeman of the federal police in Brussels, who had given him information in return for payment. When this officer got another job, he made it known that he could no longer help Flor. This was simply not accepted. That cop had to figure out how to get the information.
His first steps begin in 2009. Freshly graduated, he commits an armed robbery in a brewery in his hometown with 2 accomplices. Flor, who still lacks expertise, is arrested by the police shortly after. The little bandit will express his regrets in court.
"I'm ashamed of that. Every time I walk by, I have to think about it. I will carry it with me for the rest of my life. But I'm on the right track now. I've been working for a while and I'm no longer involved in the criminal underworld."
However, his name reappears after barely a year. It is August 2010, when a car stops next to a man walking his dog. He is dragged into the vehicle by kidnappers wearing carnival masks. Once taken to a forest, one of the men sits on him, cuts off a finger with garden shears. He would have been punished after betraying Flor during a drug investigation. The police managed to arrest several executors based on DNA traces. However, there was not enough evidence to charge the clients with this punishment. Flor is acquitted. His name is established as a criminal with ambitions.
In a few years, he went from a small criminal to an environmental heavyweight.
Indeed, Flor appears in a case in 2016 involving drug trafficking. Johannes W., a truck driver, has been in custody for 2 years for transporting about 40 kilograms of pure heroin to England. He was released in 2015 after judges could not find enough evidence to know if he was deliberately involved. Relieved, Johannes returns home, but does not know that this loss of drugs will not go unnoticed. A team of Flor, including a former kickboxer Cohen VS, beat him and demanded a refund. He paid a part of it, having received a delay of a few days to pay the remaining €25,000, although in an atmosphere of paranoia and constant surveillance.
Drug criminal Johannes W. turned himself in to the local police in Antwerp to tell his story of an unlikely kidnapping and hostage-taking.
According to Flor, Johannes was a criminal himself.
He is a serious drug criminal who himself was sentenced to 17 years in prison in England.
And so Johannes' words should not be taken into account. However, Flor was sentenced to 4 years in prison, but went on the run after appealing. The man is known under different pseudonyms, but it is well that of Bongo King, used on the system of communication of EncroChat, which made it possible to show his major role in the traffic of coke. First, he appears in a case of coke smuggling from Suriname. In 2018, a shipment of about 800 kilograms of cocaine arrived through the port of Antwerp, in containers from the NV Umrav Singh rice trade, which allowed the police to better understand the structure of the organization. However, in January 2019, a police patrol discovered a man with a bullet in the middle of his forehead on a beach in Guyana. The revealed identity of this man is Nitenda Umrav Singh, the supplier of the Surinamese rice, who was to be questioned by the police in direct connection with various drug-related cases. It was not possible to determine whether the cocaine was placed in his containers without his knowledge, or deliberately with his consent. We do not know either if this homicide is linked to the team around Flor, or to other teams that wanted to silence him. What is clear, however, is that Bongo King is believed to have directed other container imports loaded with manganese ore from Brazil to Rotterdam, and when a shipment of 2.3 tons of coke was intercepted in April 2020, Bongo King sent a message to his co-defendant.
Sooner or later it had to happen, but we still put on a great show.
No wonder he ended up on the most wanted list of Europol and the federal police in Belgium. Not only for his active role in drug trafficking, but especially because he's becoming more and more violent.
For us, violence is a criterion to which we give priority, and this is certainly the case with Flor Bressers.
The obscure water treatment company, Kriva Rotterdam Europe, is said to have facilitated the smuggling, whose CEO, Willem VDG, was pulled out of bed in June 2020. And according to the prosecutor, the company was potentially a front for a much larger scale drug trade. As far as Willem is concerned, he denied at first to be linked in any way with this cocaine trafficking. And according to his lawyer,
he was trapped. His company was used without his knowledge.
However, he cannot explain the presence of the encrypted phones found in his home. In any case, this manganese ore had been transported in the containers that the police had followed from Rotterdam to their destination, a warehouse in Best in the Netherlands. There, 4 men from Antwerp, of Kosovar origin, were waiting to take out cocaine. This workforce was linked to the duo of suspects, Blodim and Bart. The group's treasurer is believed to be Bastiaan K., a Dutch businessman, considered the gang's money launderer. In intercepted messages, the so-called Bas had even mentioned the arrest of the Bosnian criminal Edin G, a man who would also be linked to the infamous Tito and Dino cartel of the Balkans. As for Baz, he was arrested in October 2021 in an airport by the French police. But there was also Ben D, a former model and entrepreneur, restaurant owner, known for his nightlife and smuggling. He had already been arrested in 2005 near the French-Spanish border with 30 kilograms of coke in his car. After his release, he was supposed to start new projects. However, his presence at a meeting in the Seychelles with leaders of organizations, including Flor B, attests to a different direction. But it was another personality of the Antwerp nightlife who brought the light on the group. Maxim M says he is related to Willem. Indeed, his mother, Veronique, worked for Kriva Rotterdam as a secretary.
If the police and justice system tracked down the group around Kriva Rotterdam, it was largely due to the hard-hitting behavior of Maxim M.
His ex-girlfriend even sent him a text message during an argument.
You are a Pablo Escobar wannabe. Everyone knows that those containers intercepted at Best are yours. Bets are already being made in Antwerp on when you will be arrested.
Indeed, his ex had hate after she realized that he had cheated on her while she was pregnant.
With a local slut that everyone has already sat on.
The relentlessness of his ex would have brought too many problems to Maxim, who felt threatened by people above him. The latter would have even handled his encrypted mobile phone with gloves, and would have hidden it in the neighbor's garden because of his paranoia. Let's go back to the case of Flor. He will be arrested in February 2022 in a luxurious residential tower in Switzerland, where he was living under a false identity with his girlfriend and their newborn child. His perfectly forged biometric passport would have been provided in Germany for about 250,000 euros. It was difficult to find him, but according to the intercepted messages, he had hidden part of his millions in Switzerland, where he had bought his own house. Without forgetting Bastian K., who would have gone to the country shortly before his arrest. The race behind the man, considered an important figure in the cartel Dino and Tito, is over. But there was still a powerful international crime figure on the other side of the chain in Brazil. We are talking about the ex-military policeman Sergio de Carvalho. He is a controversial personality who has been linked to organized crime for decades, but despite various arrests,
he was not dismissed by the military police until 2018.
His network is suspected of having supplied 45 tons of coke to European ports. Sergio lived for some time in Galicia, the Spanish region historically linked to South American narcos. It was there that he was arrested for a case around a large seizure of white while using the false identity of Paul Volta. But the man who always manages to save his skin faked the death of his character after paying a deposit of 200,000 euros in 2020. Indeed, a doctor in Marbella provided a death certificate proving that this Paul Volta had died as a result of COVID. Shortly afterwards, the Brazilian authorities warned their Spanish colleagues that in reality, Paul and Sergio are one and the same person. But it was already too late. He had long been away around the world thanks to his private plane. A few days later, Europol launched a huge operation against organized crime in Brazil, which even confiscated a fleet of 37 private jets. The role of private jets in smuggling circuits has been demonstrated once again, with a cargo of 1.3 tons of coke seized in Brazil bound for Brussels in August 2021. The flight was intercepted before takeoff, intercepting a Spanish from Liège, Belgium, who opened the suitcases in front of the police cameras. Regarding the brain of the operation,
all eyes are on Sergio Roberto de Carvalho,
who was finally arrested in June 2022 in Hungary, having hidden under a new Mexican identity. Let's go back to Kriva Rochem, which had been put into liquidation. William's son, David, took over the management of the company until a dispute broke out over the company's shares. So he decided to move to Austria, where he would eventually run a hotel. But the latter would also be involved in another drug trafficking, as evidenced by an extradition request launched by the Brazilian government for a traffic of 2 tons of coke. What is even more intriguing is that this line of contraband would still be attributed to the so-called Tito and Dino cartel. But for the Belgian justice, there is still the last mission to accomplish. That is the tracking of the criminal assets of Flor Bressers, which could have a net value of hundreds of millions of euros, distributed in different places in the world.